In today's world, more and more people who carry a deep spiritual calling are walking away from the church. These individuals, often referred to as the chosen ones, are not abandoning their faith. Rather, they are moving in a direction that feels truer to their inner connection with God. Their journey raises important questions about whether it is their unique spiritual gifts that cause them to feel out of place, or if it is something about the structure of the church itself that makes it hard for them to stay. Chosen ones often stand out, not because they try to, but because the nature of their spiritual path sets them apart. Even in places designed to nurture faith, such as churches and religious communities, they can feel a deep sense of not belonging. This experience is not about arrogance or pride. It is about the simple reality that their relationship with the divine often does not fit neatly within human-made systems. Over time, this feeling of being different can grow stronger, leading them to seek spiritual growth outside the walls of organized religion. The Bible speaks many times about the chosen ones. In 1 Peter 2:9, believers are described as a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession. This powerful verse reminds us that being chosen means being set apart, called for a special purpose. Similarly, Matthew 22:14 says, "Many are called, but few are chosen," highlighting that not everyone who hears God's call steps into the full depth of that calling. Those who are chosen carry a rare and important responsibility, one that often makes their path more lonely and more challenging. The decision to leave the church is rarely made lightly. Chosen ones deeply value their relationship with God and often long for a community that nurtures the bond. But many find that traditional churches can sometimes feel limiting. While churches aim to create environments for worship and fellowship, they can unintentionally place rules, traditions, and expectations around spiritual experiences. For those who are called to walk closely with God in a personal and direct way, these structures can feel more like barriers than bridges. This hunger for something deeper is not new. Even Jesus faced similar tensions. During his time on earth, he spoke out against the religious leaders who cared more about appearances than true faith. He called the Pharisees whitewashed tombs in Matthew 23:27-28, pointing out that while they looked righteous on the outside, their hearts were far from God. Jesus' ministry was revolutionary because it broke through empty traditions and focused on the true heart of God: love, mercy, justice, and truth. His example shows that sometimes real spiritual growth means stepping outside of the accepted norms. For many chosen ones today, the same struggle continues. They are not content with surface-level faith or practices that seem disconnected from a real encounter with the divine. They seek authenticity. They crave an unfiltered relationship with God, one that is not watered down by human traditions or limited by religious politics. When churches emphasize conformity over personal spiritual truth, chosen ones often feel suffocated. Their loyalty is to God's voice above all else, and when that voice calls them to walk a different path, they feel compelled to follow it, even if it means leaving familiar places behind. Church communities often value unity and harmony, which are good and necessary in many ways. But when unity comes at the cost of truth, it can create a painful divide. Chosen ones often cannot go along with teachings or practices that their spirits know are not fully aligned with God's truth. They are called to live with deep honesty, even if it means being misunderstood or even rejected. Their calling to truth is greater than their desire to fit in. Another reason why chosen ones often leave churches is their understanding of spiritual authority. In many churches, there is a clear hierarchy: pastors, elders, leaders who make decisions for the congregation. This structure helps organize large groups, but for someone who is deeply led by the Spirit, it can feel like a cage. Chosen ones often receive direct guidance from God and feel a strong sense of personal responsibility to follow it. When church structures prioritize human authority over divine leading, It creates tension that chosen ones cannot easily ignore. For them, the ultimate authority is God, not a human leader, no matter how well-meaning that leader might be. They believe that true spiritual leadership comes not from holding a position, but from living in deep connection with the Spirit. This belief often places them at odds with systems that expect obedience to human leadership without question. Isolation becomes part of their journey, but it is not a sign of failure. For the chosen ones, seasons of loneliness are often necessary. These times set them apart for deeper growth, for refining, and for preparation. It is during these times of separation that they come to understand more fully who they are and what they are called to do. Though it can be painful, isolation is a sacred tool God uses to strengthen and prepare them for their unique missions. Throughout history, those chosen by God have often had to walk paths few others understood. Abraham left his home without knowing where God was leading him. Moses spent years in the wilderness before leading the Israelites to freedom. The prophets often stood alone, calling out injustices and corruption even when it cost them everything. Being chosen has never meant having an easy or popular life. It has always meant being willing to listen to God's voice above all others, no matter the cost. Leaving a church doesn't mean abandoning God. For many chosen ones, it is exactly the opposite. It is a move toward a deeper, more intimate walk with God. They are not rejecting faith. They are pursuing it with all their hearts. They are seeking a relationship that is real, alive, and powerful, unfiltered by human expectations and traditions. This journey is not without its challenges. Walking a path that others do not understand can be lonely. It can feel like losing a family, a community, and a sense of belonging. But it also opens the door to a more authentic life, one built on true relationship with God rather than on fitting into a system. It teaches dependence on God alone and deepens the chosen one's understanding of their true purpose. In the end, the experience of being set apart is not about rebellion or pride. It is about faithfulness. It is about hearing the call of God and answering, even when that answer leads away from what is comfortable and known. It is about being willing to walk into the unknown, trusting that God is leading every step of the way. For anyone feeling this call today, know that you are not alone. Others have walked this path before you, and many are walking it now. Your feelings of disconnection, your hunger for deeper truth, and your need for authentic connection with God are not wrong. They are signs of your calling. They are invitations to step deeper into the life God has prepared for you. Stay faithful to the voice that calls you. Trust that even in the loneliness, even in the misunderstanding, you are being shaped for something greater. The isolation you experience is not the end of your story. It is a necessary part of your preparation. It is the place where God will meet you most deeply and where you will be equipped to fulfill the mission you were created for. In a world that often values conformity over authenticity, your courage to follow God's voice is a light. It is a witness to a different way of living, a way of true faith, real love, and deep connection with the divine. Your path may be harder, but it is also more beautiful, more powerful, and more meaningful than you can yet imagine. Hold on to your calling. Walk your path with courage. And know that even when you feel most alone, God is walking every step of the way with you. Throughout history, we can see that the people chosen for great purposes often had to go through long periods of isolation before stepping into their destiny. Their time alone wasn't a punishment or a mistake. It was a time of preparation, shaping them into who they needed to become. Take Moses, for example. Before he led the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt, Moses spent 40 years living in the wilderness. To many, it might have looked like Moses was just wandering aimlessly or wasting time. But in truth, that time alone was exactly what he needed. In those long years away from the spotlight, Moses learned important lessons. He learned how to be patient. He learned humility. Most importantly, he learned to fully depend on God. These were not lessons he could have learned while living in Pharaoh's palace. It was in the quiet, away from the noise of Egypt, that Moses became the kind of leader God could use to free his people. Another powerful example is Elijah. After Elijah boldly stood up to the prophets of Baal and saw God's power come down from heaven, he didn't stay on the mountaintop celebrating. Instead, Elijah ran away into the wilderness, feeling afraid and alone. He hid in a cave, thinking his work was over. But it was there, in the silence and stillness of that cave, that God spoke to Elijah. It wasn't through a loud storm or a blazing fire. It wasn't through an earthquake. God spoke in a still, small voice. That moment teaches us something important. Sometimes we need to step away from the noise of the world to hear the quiet voice of God. Even Jesus, the Son of God, chose isolation before starting his public ministry. He spent 40 days alone in the wilderness, fasting and facing deep temptations. Those 40 days weren't easy. Jesus was hungry, tired, and tempted by the devil. But when he came out of that wilderness, he was spiritually strong and ready for everything that was ahead. His time alone prepared him for his mission. He didn't avoid the wilderness because it was uncomfortable. He embraced it because he knew it was necessary for his strength and clarity. When we look at these stories, we see a pattern. Isolation is not a mistake. It is often part of the process for those called to great purposes. In solitude, these chosen ones found strength, wisdom, and deep connection with God. They didn't just survive their time alone, they were transformed by it. Today, the same thing can happen. Those who are called for a unique purpose often find that traditional places, like churches, can't fully hold or understand them. It's not because the church is bad. It's because chosen ones are often meant to do something new, something that doesn't fit inside the usual structures. Many times, chosen ones challenge the way things have always been done. They ask hard questions that others are afraid to ask. They offer fresh ideas that make people uncomfortable. Their presence shakes things up. People who are deeply invested in keeping everything the same often see them as troublemakers or threats. But the truth is, they are not trying to destroy. They are trying to bring growth and new life. A good example is Martin Luther. He was part of the Catholic Church, but he began to see problems that needed to be addressed. When he spoke out, he didn't do it to tear down the church, but to call it back to its true purpose. His actions sparked the Protestant Reformation, changing Christianity forever. But it also meant he had to stand apart from the institution he once loved and served. His courage to question and challenge led to great change, but it also brought isolation. Chosen ones often walk a path that feels lonely because they are answering a higher calling. Churches usually focus on important things like community, worship, and teaching. These are good and necessary parts of faith. But a chosen one's mission can be different. Their calling might take them places where the church structure cannot easily go. They might be sent to reach people outside the usual church walls. Their purpose might not fit neatly into a regular Sunday service or a church committee. Because of this, they sometimes have to walk alone for a while, following God's voice more than the voice of any institution. Another reason why chosen ones often feel isolated is that their light shines brightly, and light reveals everything, even things people would rather keep hidden. A truly authentic and spiritually aware person naturally exposes problems just by being themselves. Without even trying, they show where there is corruption, laziness, or fear inside an organization. This can make others uncomfortable. As Gloria Steinem famously said, "The truth will set you free, but first it will make you uncomfortable." Chosen ones often act as mirrors, showing others what they might need to change. Because of this, they can be rejected or pushed away. But their rejection is often proof that they are fulfilling their purpose, not failing. So, what should someone do when they find themselves feeling isolated because they are chosen? First, it's important to understand that solitude is not your enemy. It is your training ground. Instead of fighting the isolation, embrace it. Use this time to grow stronger, to build an even deeper relationship with God, and to sharpen your understanding of your purpose. Solitude is where great souls are made. It is not loneliness if you understand it as sacred preparation. Second, even though you are walking a unique path, you are not completely alone. There are others like you. Seek out people who understand your calling. Look for spiritual communities, mentors, or friends who can support you, even if they are few. One or two genuine connections are more valuable than a large crowd that doesn't see you. Another important thing to remember is to stay humble. Being chosen does not make you better than others. It simply means you have a different assignment. Humility will keep you grounded. It will protect you from pride and bitterness. Your role is to serve others, not to look down on them. Lastly, while it might be tempting to reject the church or other institutions altogether, try to be a bridge instead. Chosen ones have the chance to gently bring new perspectives and healing. Not by force, not by anger, but by living out the truth in a loving and courageous way. Some will listen, some will not. But your job is not to convince everyone. Your job is to shine your light faithfully. Chosen ones are not isolated because they are failures or misfits. They are isolated because their journey demands it. Like Moses, Elijah, and Jesus, they must pass through the wilderness before stepping into their destiny. The church, while important and valuable, cannot always contain the spirit of someone called to something larger or different. And that's okay. Not every calling can fit into human structures. If you feel isolated today, know this: it is part of your calling, not a punishment. The wilderness is where your spirit is strengthened. It is where you hear the still, small voice. It is where you become who you were meant to be. Trust the process. Trust the isolation. It is preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. Embrace your path with courage. Let your light shine, even if others don't understand it. Even if you feel like you don't fit anywhere, remember, you were not made to fit into the world's small boxes. You were made to be a reflection of the divine, and the divine cannot be contained. This message is for all the chosen ones out there. Your isolation is not your defeat. It is your preparation. Keep moving forward with faith. Keep your heart soft and your spirit strong. Keep trusting God's voice above every other voice. You are not alone in the wilderness. You are walking the same road that many great souls have walked before you. And when the time is right, you will step into everything you were created to be. If this message speaks to your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more spiritual insights. Until next time, keep shining your light. You are needed, you are chosen, and you are unstoppable.